Welcome. Welcome to the Clear Pod. I am so excited to be here today. I'm Monica Pina, I'm your host, and I have a special guest host with me, Melissa.
LeAira.
Say it one more time.
Melissa LeAira
Melissa
with
LeAira.
Journey Out of the Bottle.
Very cool. My name's Quay McCleney. I'm just joining with you guys.
Yeah, we're here to hear your story.
Mhm.
Here to hear your story. We are here to talk to you about your experience of getting away from alcohol, essentially. So you have a very interesting backstory. I met you through a coworker of mine who raves about you. She cannot say enough good things about you. I mean, I think you don't, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I think you're one of her kids. Like she has adopted
Absolutely.
you, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, yeah,
I
Michelle
love
loves you.
her.
But if you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of your adventure with alcohol and how we got to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I so I work in hospitality right now. That's kind of where my industry has always been. I feel like what kind of I grew up in a I grew up in Fort Collins, so it was a huge college town. So tons of drinking always. So I was kind of growing up around kind of that bar stool vibe of we're always frat parties, it's always going to be drinking, it's going to be a good time, which I loved. It was a good time. That kind of got me introduced to the party scene. All of my friends were older, so they all were a part of CSU. So I was partying like a college kid in high school, and as that kind of developed and stuff, I got into the service industry when I was 21. I've kind of been in and out of it from 18 up until that point, but 21 was like really when I started doing it. I worked at a college bar. So those kind of led to some crazy activities like drinking on the job and stuff like that. Um, as it kind of got normal in my life, and I feel like everyone pretty much normalizes like, oh, you want to go study? Well, let's go grab a beer. Or, oh, you want to just talk about life? Let's go grab a drink real fast. Let's go hang out at a bar. So it kind of became an everyday thing for me.
Plus,
Um,
you were working, so you would go to work
right.
and have drinks and go out with friends and have drinks and
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it was like it kind of got into a weird cycle. I became pretty content with it. It was just because I thought it was everyone was doing it. So obviously it has to be normal, right? So I met my partner and we had been on like the brokest I had ever been. I had just moved out of my family's house. Of course, guess what that crutch is gonna be for me. So I started drinking a little bit more. Um, as that crutch kind of grew and grew, your tolerance kind of grows and grows. So I was drinking pretty often, but I was like to the point financially where it was like kind of eat or drink a little bit. So I had broke boy pasta that
Uh-huh.
I make all the time and always had some drinks with it and stuff. I never felt like I was drinking too much, to be honest with you. I was just like, oh, like everyone drinks this much.
Right.
Everyone's going home and having like
Yeah, right.
6 to 7 beers, like this is
Right.
totally normal.
And then you wake up because you're hungover and then have a drink, right?
Right.
Like, why not?
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
I'm gonna go to a bar anyway. I'm working there. Let's grab a drink.
yeah.
So, it kind of developed, and then I moved from Fort Collins out here to Littleton. Once I moved to Littleton, that's when I kind of realized I'm like, okay, I'm clearly this might be a little bit too much in my life, and it's like really heavy. It's a part of me at this point. I was not smoking at all, funny enough. Like, I had a terrible experience with overdoing an edible one time, which was stupid on my part. I had like recreational access and I definitely abused that. Um,
You have to dig into that just a little bit more because I think everybody has a bad story with cannabis the first time, but everybody has a bad story with alcohol.
one, I have,
And they
Yeah.
will get horribly sick and still get up and continue drinking.
Mhm.
But with cannabis, a lot of times it's a one and then you didn't use it again for a long time.
which is strange.
Right.
I could not even, unfortunately, count how many times I've probably gotten sick from drinking, just because, I mean, that was that college life. Like, it was like you party till you can.
Yeah.
Um, I
I'm curious, the time that you had the bad experience with the edible, were you also drinking?
yes.
Okay.
So I mean,
I'm curious because
no, and I
sometimes
think
like
that
the
plays a factor.
combination of the two is like, oh, which one am I going to give up? Which one hit me harder?
100%.
Right.
And also, I mean, I feel like it was a hard time for everyone. I always kind of forget COVID happened, and it was during COVID,
Yeah.
and I took so I mean, obviously a recommended dose. Like you'll never catch me taking more than like 10 to 15 milligrams for an edible. I was taking probably close to about 200, thinking I was gonna be okay, because I was smoking every day. I was like,
Yeah.
I I'm a badass. I'm 21 years old. I can do whatever
Uh-huh.
I want. So I learned my lesson
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah.
But it did kind of scare me away from it for a little bit. So I started drinking more since I wasn't smoking.
Right.
Um, I kind of just kept a pretty bad habit of it. Life got together. And then I went on like some vacations where I just like really went ham and I felt embarrassed of it and it kept building up. And then I went to Vegas and that's just like a bender in itself.
Hmm.
And I just was not proud of how I acted. I hurt my friends. I hurt like my partner's feelings. Like I had never seen that side of myself before. And the fact that I genuinely can sit here and tell you that I do not remember some of the things that happened scares me beyond. And so that kind of big step back. And I was like, there was no like, no one was coming for me and like, you need to stop drinking, you need to rehab, you need to get help. It wasn't even like that. It was like, all my friends were like, "We love you, we support you, but like obviously something needs to change." And I just decided to take that into my own hands. And if there's very little in life we can control, if I can control something that is like only like what alcohol has given me hangovers, anxiety, like literally nothing positive except maybe a little bit more social. And like I kind of lose anxiety for a very, very, very small part of my life. Nothing has benefited me out of that. And I gained a lot of weight from it too, so now I look a lot better. But yeah, I took a step back and I'm like, I'm done. And I think I am a year and 4 months sober from alcohol now. So it's super exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And thank you. And ever since then, I don't want to blame it on, or like, I like do give the credit to not drinking. I have a significant career change that is something I never saw myself doing, but I'm very blessed to be in. Um, I am healthy. I'm eating great. I'm waking up every day with a great attitude. I have consistently, like, I've really struggled with anxiety. I can say, like, consistently, I mean, I get my nervous moments and stuff like
Mhm.
that, but I almost no anxiety whatsoever. 7 months now.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
I wake up every day feeling great and ready to go and excited to live this life that I've been blessed with. So, it's so crazy that a substance
Yeah.
we give, and we've normalized it. Like I'm weird now, you know. So
Mhm.
Right.
that's kind of where I've stood with, especially with that's where my drinking kind of background is, and I'm not embarrassed by it at all. I'm only 24, you
Right.
know. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of life to live.
You stopped 24 years before I did. So,
Wow.
amen.
Yeah.
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 Right. Fast learner.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying.
You
I'm trying.
learned really fast. I was gonna say same thing. I think it's been almost 2 years for me.
Oh,
So
wow.
you learned much faster
Yeah.
than I did.
Yeah.
That's great. How has the response been in with your family and friends? Like we talked about this a few minutes ago about how do people perceive you when you say you quit drinking?
My family loves, and they were so supportive, and I don't think they realized like kind of how kind of severe it was getting. Not like, I don't want to say it was severe. I don't want to say it was an extreme alcoholic. Technically, on paper, I am an alcoholic. Um, I think, yeah, like yeah,
I mean, it
whatever.
depends whose definition
I
you're going
Right,
by.
everything's different.
Right. You
Yeah,
don't.
It's
Yeah.
it's on a spectrum.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I just felt like I was a college kid having fun, you know. So family love supported. They're like, dude, just do what's best for yourself. As long, and I mean, who's not going to support if I'm benefiting my health?
Right.
Absolutely. And they're actually like, they used to be like very anti-weed, and they are like, we think this is great, this is good for you, and it's like showing. And then they've even kind of been experimenting a little bit, and which you would have told me that 5 years ago. I'm not kidding. I would have been like, you're kidding, you're absolutely lying. My friends, I think if I was still in Fort Collins, it would have been completely different. I did realize I did have a lot of friendships that were built based off partying, which is pretty devastating. And it is completely natural. That's how like socialness works. You know, you all go party and drink together. Of course, you're building bonds like that.
Mhm.
When I moved out here, thankfully, the people that I had around me were the best people I could possibly have. They loved me, they supported me, they still wanted to go out, they still wanted to hang out. Like that never stopped. It just wasn't me drinking anymore.
Yeah.
And they got a DD out of it, so
Right.
worked out pretty nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Um, but I do believe if I was back in that college town, it would have been very, very, very different. And I think it would have hurt me more. So I think moving out here actually worked out great for me. The only thing that eats me up, and I'm sure you two can relate, is FOMO. It hurts with the FOMO sometimes. And like, I've even been struggling with that recently.
Mhm.
It's just like,
In
whatever.
what way? Like being actually being drunk or being
And it's,
invited to certain things?
um, kind of both, actually. Like, I mean, sometimes I feel like I used to go to concerts all the time, and I love EDM, and Colorado's
Yeah,
big for
yeah.
EDM.
Me
Yes,
too. We should go.
yes,
I
I
would
absolutely love
I'm
that.
always looking for good shows.
Same,
100%.
same.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I I feel like some of my friends, granted, there were some more intense things involved with some of those shows,
Yeah.
but I feel like some people kind of pulled back a little bit because they're like, oh, he's probably not going to want to do this anymore. Oh, he's probably not going to want to go to this show. Like it's a lot of people drinking and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or inviting me out to bars. And like I did feel isolated for a little bit. I feel like the first 6 months it was isolation a little bit from friends, but mainly me. I also felt like I'm like, oh, they probably don't want to have me being awkward or something around and stuff like that. But
How do you feel after when you're with people and after a few hours they're super buzzed and they're not connecting with you? Like, do you enjoy still being around them?
I I will say I absolutely love drunk people. Like, and ironically enough, like it's bad to say, but I mean, I've bartended for forever and I still
Yeah,
work with drinking and stuff.
yeah,
I love it to a point.
Right.
When
right.
you start kind of getting crazy and you're kind of slurring your words and you've told me
Yeah,
the same story probably 20 times,
that one.
that's when I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
Hmm.
gonna go. And honestly, I have grown enough to be able to reflect on myself that I do have triggers and I didn't realize I had. I'm like, why am I getting anxious? And there's like alcohol around and I'm like, I don't get like this. Like, why am I tripping right now? And I'm like, I have recently actually been like, oh, it's like, I mean, it's alcohol can be kind of triggering a little bit. And it's just because it's like that social crutch is mainly kind of what I miss. I feel like the most out of it because I go to I'm a pretty social butterfly. I love going out. I love hanging out with people, whether it is a party or bars or, just going to grab coffee. I mean, I just want to always be out and
yeah.
about.
Hmm.
So I,
How do you incorporate cannabis into your social events now?
I, so like I usually, am I allowed to like talk about like
You can talk about anything you want,
anything?
and if it's not appropriate, we'll take it out later. So
Okay.
tell us the story, and then we'll figure it out.
Usually, so I have my little dab pen that I use. I have found the perfect percentage for me, and I'm actually thinking about switching to flour right now. But I usually just take a little baby hit for me, but it gives me that like super, I'm not high. Like high is such a spectrum when people say that, and I realize that now.
Yeah.
For so long, I'm paralyzed on the couch and I like cannot move and my eyes are like barely open and I'm like, whoa, my body's literally vibrating. Like,
Right. That's high.
yes.
Okay.
I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm like, this is what everyone is talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can take a little baby puff
Right.
and I'm feeling like super light. I'm social. I'm like excited to be around. I do have that nice little buzz, like that pep in your step
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that's where it really ties into me being out and social. And it's a big decompressor for me. It is a huge decompressor. When I'm done, because I can talk, as you could probably see, I can love yapping.
Yeah.
It helps me come home and just like for me, I feel completely recharged. When I get home, I can smoke. I'm like, I am chilling, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it helps my mental health for sure with that too. Like, I can decompress, chill, and even reflect. Like, weird quirks that I have, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. My brain always is kind of
Yeah.
flowing, and I love cleaning with it.
Mm. I was actually going to ask you about that. I've heard of that a couple of times because the stereotype is if you use cannabis, you're lazy, right? You're on the couch, your eyes are barely open, right? You're like, but another coworker uses it to clean house, like to clean his house on the weekends.
Yes.
Like, yeah,
And it's
totally.
like it makes it fun. It's like you put on some music you can dance to. And it's not again, you want that little buzz and it gives you that energy and you're excited to be around. Life is beautiful. And
Hmm.
it's great for gratitude. I mean, that sounds silly and stupid, but like
Hmm.
everything is romantic and it's like you get to look at things and you're like, "Oh, I enjoy this silly little life," Like it gets you a little something to have like
Yeah.
some joy in it. And you don't have to have it, but it helps.
Which is, I think, what how alcohol is marketed. That
Mhm.
it's this sophisticated, like we're changing our consciousness, and we want to do that for reasons to connect, to elevate, and alcohol just doesn't do that. We're told that it does,
Right.
and it does for maybe a minute, right? But then cannabis is actually a sustainable way in which you can really, like what you said, like just really enjoy all the little things,
Yeah,
and it stays there
and it does stay
in
good.
the cannabis and not with alcohol.
Yeah. And that's what blows my mind is still how we have normalized, like how normal alcohol is. And which drink, if you want to drink, do what your heart desires. Some people it just affects differently. Like it really hurt my mental health and I just couldn't live that way anymore. But it blows my mind how normal drinking can be and is. And now it's weird when people aren't drinking and like all this stuff. And I will say I'm super excited. A lot of restaurants are taking this mocktail stuff seriously.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's neat.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And I'm excited to see like I'm sure they're gonna have like CBD infused stuff, and I'm sure even THC bars will probably even be blowing up. I think that would be a great thing to do. But I mean, it's
Mhm.
the world's changing. Mocktails are becoming normal, and people don't are like. I'm glad we're finally normalizing not drinking, but it is a long stretch ahead of us.
Hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I would say people your age in that age demographic are wising up
yeah,
much sooner, much
Right.
sooner.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think looking at like generational trauma is like what people look at, but I'm like, okay, so we are finally like standing up and reflecting. I'm like, okay, what has alcohol been in from us? Like, I mean, there have been broken families, hurt relationships, like a lot of negative things can come out from drinking. And like, unfortunately, that's just the raw truth of like what it can be. I'm I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, THC is like, I went off and drove drunk or like crazy things or just threw a tantrum because I was just so high. I'm like, the worst thing you're gonna do is eat too many chips and then pass out. I mean, like,
Yeah,
and that's a good thing,
laugh
you know.
until you pee.
Right, right, and I love it.
Well, and I think by nature, alcohol is really a poison, right? Like it doesn't do anything
Yeah.
beneficial for your body. Therefore, it's a sedative, right?
Mm,
Like it kind of sedates the part of you that's you. At least for me is how I felt, right? Like and I would get into the anxiety feedback loop, right? Like drinking the day after drinking, I would be horrendously anxious. So I would drink
mm,
so I wouldn't have to be anxious. But then when the drink and so but I was just getting more and more and more anxious and it was never good. However, with cannabis, what I have found is that it's not actually a poison.
No.
And you have an endocannabinoid system that cannabis works with. And so there's a lot of different ways that it can kind of mesh with your body and kind of uncover your soul part as opposed to kind of smothering it, is
Yeah,
how
I
kind of
love
what I'm
that.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, alcohol prolongs the pain, and I
Mhm.
think cannabis infuses the joy.
Right.
Yeah.
and I absolutely agree with that statement. That was a really good way to word it. I also do feel like, and I've told my partner this all the time, is a lot of things that I never got to digest as a young high school kid all the way through college. Like some serious things had gone through that life, and I feel like for anyone, just that's just being young and developing. I have things that I'm like hit with that I'm like, whoa, I haven't thought about this since it happened, and I have to work
Mhm.
through it.
Hmm.
I do feel pretty cool being able to come like defeat demons like that. They are so big in my brain, and
Mhm.
now that I have a clear head, and I will say smoking has actually helped me with this too, being able to kind of slowly process things, and then when things come on, they can be really intense.
Hmm.
When you get to kind of calm your heart and calm your body and your soul, like you're able to truly reflect and like break it down so like my demons don't have too much power over me too anymore, and I have had that assistance with THC, being able to process some pretty intense things. And it's crazy that alcohol will keep that away in your brain,
Yeah,
like,
it masks it and it veils it, and you can't access it. So I like I want to cry
uh,
because it's like, yeah, you can access the things that and work on them, and it becomes actually manageable, and you can get through it. Where with alcohol, it just is like, I don't want to deal with that because we
yes,
don't think we want to, but you really do.
yeah,
It is accessible then, and then it's healable.
yeah. And it's crazy how much I can push it back, and it absolutely is healable. That's what blew my mind too, is I thought I wasn't gonna be able,
Yeah.
it was gonna be a lifetime of, like, I'm a year and 4 months in, and that's only a year and 4 months in. I mean, like, I have years to come, and I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
But it is crazy how much power that can have over you with that. And no one thinks about things like that because, I mean, why would you? You're still having a good time. You're
Right.
still drinking it up. You're
Yeah.
still going out.
And people are like, I don't want to deal with my problems. Like, that's the
Mm,
whole point. Like, oh, this is a rough day. Let's go grab a drink.
exactly.
Right?
Hmm.
It's just so normalized that people don't even really think, like, oh, this is probably going to make things worse.
Hmm.
Right.
But I
Absolutely.
like how you also say that cannabis, it's almost like it takes you out of, I call it, it takes me out of the matrix
Yeah.
so that I can then actually access, like, oh, I don't have to worry about this, but like, oh, I look at it as checking in.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not checking out with cannabis like I was with alcohol, checking in, and it's like,
I
oh,
like that.
okay, now I get to actually get to know myself in a way that I never was able to do previously.
100%.
And it's like, oh, I kind of like this.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah.
And then getting to know, like, getting to learn to know yourself is really, really, really cool too, especially without that block of alcohol in your way. Like, you genuinely get to take that wall down, and it is crazy to like get to know
It's
who you are.
it's surreal.
Hmm.
I've had experiences where I'm like, I've likened this to like it's waking up from a fever dream.
Mm.
Mm, yeah, that is true because I feel like it was like maybe 5 months after I quit drinking. I think you said it was almost the same time frame where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've arrived. This is who I am. This is what life is like. Like
Yeah.
the colors are brighter and I don't feel numb anymore.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
y'all hearing you say that out loud is like crazy. Like the fact that that dims us down so much. Like, I had the same exact thing. I literally woke up one day, and it was like, yeah, 6 months in, six, seven, and I'm like, what the world is going on right now? Like, I feel
Mhm.
present, and you are right. The kind of the colors are a little bit brighter. Life's
Yeah.
good. Like, you're hanging out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it is like, it is a feeling you get, and I'm blessed to say I feel present, and like I was saying earlier, like, my anxiety finally
It's not
chilled, and
better.
my mental health, to be honest, and I'll be transparent, I'm cool with it. Like, it was quite the roller coaster. Like, I had great days and I had terrible awful days, and it was like all the time, and those would be in
Mhm.
like month spans usually.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Now it's like I'm like on a kiddie ride, like it's
Mhm.
barely waving around, and I can absolutely manage what I'm dealt with. And that's, I mean, that's the biggest thing, because it got to a point where I was like, I don't like, I was really struggling with, like, I'm like, how do people do this? And then I'm like, oh, this is how. You just take out things that are literally dragging you down,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can actually make a change
Yeah.
that benefits. So,
Yeah. It's amazing.
mhm.
Yeah. Mine happened quicker, like like 9 days in, and I was like, I also felt like I was like, I feel like I escaped from a kidnapper's basement. I was like, I gotta fucking breathe. And that was a really beautiful feeling. Like, I'm never going back. I'm leaving.
You
Not going back to that space.
I always try to, this sounds kind of silly. I always tell myself, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever drink again. In my head, I think it is cut out. I say that just because I feel like we put so much pressure on substances and things, and it's like, oh, if you're smoking, well, like, I don't know. If the more pressure you put on things, the deeper it gets.
Right.
If I just want to smoke a little bit at night, I'm just smoking a little bit at night. And then not drinking. It's like people even will put pressure on you. It's like, oh, like, that must be so hard. Oh, that's, how are you even at a bar right now? Can you believe? I'm like, okay, so
Right.
take it easy. Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
know. And but you just have to remind yourself, like, I always tell myself, I'm like, if I wanted to, I always can again. It's
Right.
like not there. It's always there.
It's
But
right
it
there.
right, exactly. And I'm just like, but it's not something I
Some
want.
Sometimes people go to restaurants and they don't eat. You can also go to a bar and not drink, right? Like it's totally or drink something like
Yes.
non-alcoholic. It's fine.
Mhm.
I never like quit drinking. I was just like, yeah, this isn't working. So I started cutting it out. And then after a while I was like, oh, I haven't had a drink like in a while, like a couple months. Like that's weird. So I have in like the last year had a glass of wine here or there. It is always the worst idea. And I don't know like how many times I have to keep learning. Like I swear the last time was definitely I will have like one glass of wine and for 3 days just like, oh, I hate my life. This is the worst life choice. Like,
Mhm.
why did I do that?
Right.
It's just,
And that's the key word. It's a choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're also, I think, societally taught that if you don't drink, then you have to be in this punitive timeout. You're in trouble if you drink again. You go back to the back of the line and start over again. And when you're living from that place, that's
Like one
it's all
slip up.
right.
I
And
have
it's like,
not,
oh, I'm choosing to do this, and I know the consequence.
Yeah.
I keep trying to find it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not good. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
And I think people forget it's an active choice to like constantly say no to something, and I think that shows it shows a lot for a person that doesn't drink. I think
Right.
that's huge, and I silly as it is too, sometimes I don't think people that don't drink don't get enough credit. Like it is such alcohol is like it is a part of our culture. Everything
Mhm.
is alcohol. If you're going to a baseball game,
Mhm.
there's going to be beer.
Beer, right?
There's a football game, beer, whatever,
Right.
like clubbing, your vodka sodas, or
Christmas has eggnog and like whatever
Yeah.
they put in
right,
it.
right. Everything is associated with
Yeah.
drinking, and it's
Yeah, in church.
yes, even the wine, yeah, even the church,
Right?
like everything. And
Yeah.
it's I'm trying to break that down. Is I mean, I think it's going to take years, but I think it's great to finally see that wave
Mhm.
start. But it is involved in everything.
Right.
And when are we going to normalize like weed involved in everything? I don't think it's inappropriate to have a THC buzz or whatever you need to get through an event. I don't think that's inappropriate at all.
Yeah.
Everyone has their glasses of
Yeah.
champagnes at events or
Right.
wine.
I've been pushing the envelope on that, whereas I'm like, I'm gonna light up here, and some people are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's legal, and you all are drinking."
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh, do you do that in front of your kids?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Do you drink in front of your kids?
yes, I sure did. I
Yeah,
sure did."
right.
Because it shouldn't be a weird
Yeah,
taboo, weird subject. It's just because it's like
yeah.
we've normalized drinking only.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think we should be involved in
Yeah,
everything. And there's nothing wrong with it. And there's also people that you don't have to do anything. And that's
yeah,
absolutely okay. And people need to hear that they have support for that.
yeah,
So,
It's so weird that we have to support people through like you're having a healthy lifestyle. Like it's
yay, good for you.
it's just
yeah,
not where that we put the effort.
Well, and then there's the fine line of, oh, well, you're smoking. Like, oh, that's unhealthy. That must be bad for you. Like it's negatively affecting you. And I'm can sit here and tell you there has, other than maybe sleeping in a little bit, it has not nowhere near negatively affected me like alcohol did.
no.
So it's crazy with that.
I wanted to go back. You said something like everyone can always say no and like refrain and kind of, keep ourselves like, no, I'm not going to drink. But then it's also kind of a mindset shift, right? Of like saying yes, right?
Yeah,
Like now we get to say yes to so many other things
absolutely.
as opposed to being like, no, no, no. And it's I'm blocking this. It's like, yes, I'm going to feel good. And yes, every day I feel a little bit more alive.
Yeah. And I like I was even saying professionally how I was still bartending. I that's when I decided to start drinking. I had built I have great relationships with all the people that I had at that bar. I love that place and I love all the people, and but it that was like the foundation of where I started. Um, there was so I started building a relationship with this gentleman and his now wife, and I got the opportunity to help with their engagement, all this amazing things,
But
and our relationship got like stronger and stronger. Absolutely love them. Well, he has been trying to get me to come bartend over at the place that he works at for forever, and it's a luxury hotel. And I was like, no, no, no. And then finally, he gave me an opportunity to work in like a supervision part and
Mhm.
supervise banquets and stuff like that, which is a crazy opportunity.
yeah.
And I will say, like I was saying earlier, I seriously blame that on stopping drinking. Like I got the chance to be present with him and build that relationship with him. And then, which weirdly enough, the universe was like, hey, well, here's some good karma for you actually trying to change and work on yourself. That's how I took it. And then I'm my professional career. I'm like set up for a career for the rest of my life with this opportunity, which is crazy. And I literally am always like, it is because I stopped drinking. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a rabbit hole. Or like, if I was like I was saying, it helped me build a relationship with him. It helped me be present. I was in a good mood every day. I wasn't hungover. I was happy to be working. I was excited. I had energy. Like everything that could have built for customer service, I felt like I got to be, and I still get to be. So I got to learn. I'm learning new jobs. I'm learning things I never in a million years got to imagine.
Yeah.
And so professionally, I grew without taking alcohol out of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because personally you grew, so you were able to
Yes,
grow like professionally.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm still growing, and I can feel it, and I'm very proud of myself with that. It's cool stuff. Yeah, I'm excited.
It has been
I was,
oh yeah.
oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I always I would have those sweet spots with alcohol where it was like you would have these great connections and awesome, and it's like, oh, I'm so fired up, but then I would keep drinking and then I would
Mm,
forget.
Yep.
yeah.
And I think about how many missed opportunities.
Mm.
Yes. Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like,
Like
oh, I forgot that person's name. Oh, I didn't write their number down. And wait, what did we say? And all of those things. So to have that presence and then remember it and then
yeah.
actually be able to act upon it and keep the momentum rolling.
hmm And for it to play out too, because I feel like when you're drinking too, you can talk a big game of, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna follow through. I'll
Yeah.
definitely call you later.
Uh-huh.
Definitely not.
No,
Yeah. I'm
absolutely.
gonna be hungover all day tomorrow. I'm not gonna remember this in 2 days. It's okay. Yeah.
Right. And then what that does to our self-trust,
Right.
like constantly breaking that trust with ourselves. Like I intend to do this, right? Or I thought I did, but somewhere in the back of my head was like, you're never gonna do this because you never
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. Really quickly before we go, because Melissa has like a program, Journey Out of the Bottle, and you've gone through your own journey. Do you have, for listeners, do you have any tips or tricks or things if somebody's thinking about quitting? Did you journal? Did you meditate? What did you do to help you kind of through it?
My that's a good question. I really think mine is keeping busy. I'm a busybody. I'm a busy brain. Like I'm always doing something. Um, I I kind of became a clean freak, and I'm not. I don't think that's unhealthy either. I
No.
just was like I found passions in other things. I wanted to always. I was going on. I was started working out like crazy, just to kind of build fill that space. I feel like you do get kind of bored when you can't drink.
And you get so many hours back. You get like
Yes.
4 or 5 or 6 hours back a day.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
anything after 5 p.m., it's like, oh, but I can do this right now because
Right.
I can think. I could like write, I could drive.
Driving at night.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
Right. I
Oh
was
my
like, oh
gosh.
shit, this is what it's like. Oh,
It's a whole new world out here. This is crazy. I
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that is so funny you say that. I understand that too.
Yeah.
I think also my biggest thing is like not putting pressure on, like I was saying earlier, when you put so I was actively going to therapy, and then he had introduced me to people that I wasn't going to AA, but I was talking to people that had been a part of AA. I wanted to hear other stories. I learned how severe it can get. I promise you, if you listen to some intense stories, you will not want to drink again. Um, oh, I wish it was like How Not to Drink or something. There was this book that I also read. It by the end of it, I was like, I mean, alcohol. I'll have to get that.
is it like How to Stop Drinking or something
Something,
like that? I think
yes,
I've read that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it just turns you off
Yeah.
to everything about it.
Yeah. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
I think so too. But regardless of that, seriously taking pressure off, staying busy, and having a good support system and asking for support was huge for me. Like people are not going to naturally support you on that. And it's just because they're like, "Oh, it's your own journey. It's his self-growth." I literally had to tell my friends, family, and my partner, I'm like, "Hey, like I'm making a significant change in my life and I need and love and want you all a part of that."
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that was huge for and especially with accountability too. That was huge.
Yeah.
I
No.
think giving people permission to say, like, I want your support because I personally, when people would stop drinking around me, I felt uncomfortable. Like, oh, I'm going to say the wrong thing, or I'm going to trigger them, or I'm going to, so it's almost like this discomfort from others. I feel like they're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Is it going to be weird?
Right. What
Right.
if I invite him to do something? Like, so because it's so normalized, they don't know how to be normal.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And making that clear and put on the table, I think it takes kind of all that,
Totally.
away. There's no tension about it. No pressure.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Do
Yeah.
you have any other
I mean, I
questions?
could go on for hours, but
Like, okay, quick questions. What's your favorite consumption for cannabis? What's your favorite consumption format?
Dab pens.
Dab pens. Okay.
Yes.
And is that like I know what dabbing is, but a pen, is it like a vape?
Yeah, so like a
Okay.
concentrated vape,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah, I just have a little button to press. I smoke it and hit it.
I
Call
love
it
it.
a
And
day.
then you can do it inside or outside or anywhere and no one smells it. They don't know how you do it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Favorite place you've ever visited?
Ooh, favorite place I've ever visited. I would say actually I got to go an opportunity to go to Mexico for the first time. I don't know if that's like what you were asking. I've never been
Absolutely.
to a beach like that in my whole entire life. That was probably one of the coolest things I got to do. Got on a sailboat. We went to like Las Mujeres,
Nice.
which was like a
Yes.
beautiful island.
Yeah.
That was a very I'm a mountain boy. So that was like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Was just a little island with perfect water everywhere.
Love
So
it.
that was probably the
Was this
coolest.
post um
Yeah,
alcohol free?
this was, yeah. So this was actually just this last summer,
Okay.
which that vacation was a little hard because it was a wedding, so everyone was like drinking. So I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go on a long walk real fast, guys, or I'm gonna go to the hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moments of okay,
Right.
because late nights cause trouble sometimes too. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Be a trigger in and with itself. Um, what's the last good show that you've seen or book that you've read?
ooh, wow, let me see what kind of movie. I'm a big time movie person. I'm gonna go try to see Aliens actually here soon, like the new Aliens movie. I don't know. Trying to think. Oh, honestly, this is gonna be a little different. I just finished season 11 of Real Housewives of New Jersey, and I think that has been the best thing that I have seen. I think that is still my favorite. I have been on a binge watching Housewives of New like Jersey, so that's been the best thing I think I've seen lately.
Awesome. Cool.
It's a you get to still witness the dysfunction
Oh,
without having to drink.
100%. I'm like, yep, I'll stick to my no alcohol
That show will turn you off from alcohol.
every time, every time.
You're the messiest of the bunch.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.